to remember that people may be nice when they aren't happy. If you're working from a place of ego or defensiveness or anything like that, you are going to create very large problems for yourself down the road. We started going to the various platforms for hiring people and hiring by time zone, right? Because I was like, I need 24 hours a day on this, and it's not going to be better if I have my team working 18 hours a day. They're going to burn out, they're going to be miserable, and the quality of the product won't be there.
Welcome to Outsource to Profits. I have a fantastic guest, Gregory, here. Gregory, what do you do? Who do you serve? How do you help the world?
Well, I have a company called ZuCasa, and we build B2B video social engagement tools on a proprietary compression that reduces file size by 2/3. So what it means just for the world is that we're focused on allowing people to interact with content in a way that they're not used to. We say that we're moving from the share button to the join button, so bringing people together.
I love taglines like that. So today's episode is centered around the ability to serve your customer or get work done while you sleep. Let me tell you a quick story. So I started scaling a sales training organization where originally all of our customers started in Toronto, Canada. Then they started to spiral into across North America. And it wasn't too long. I woke up one day and 30% of my revenue was in EMEA, the GCC, which is the Middle East, Asia Pacific. And now the requirements of the customers who are no longer paying $20,000 annualized contracts, they're paying $250,000 annualized contracts. Their expectation around your SLA of support is fast, it's multi-language, and more importantly, it happens while you're sleeping because it's an APEC. And I had to think on my feet and started spinning up a service delivery team in the Philippines, which was able to answer support tickets online. We'll call that like asynchronous, and then also telephonically, like they were able to get on the phone and have customer support conversations, get people logged into the LMS and so forth. It changed the trajectory of the business because we were the first to offer global social selling, 10 different languages and around the world. And so that became a bit of a superpower. Let's jump off, Gregory. Let's talk about how you're using this as either a means to win new business, you're using it as a capability, or you're able to deliver your products and services in a way that maybe your competitors aren't. Let's talk about your use cases.
I think that, the biggest thing, well, for starters, I used to live in London, and then I've run companies in Dublin and worked over there. So you kind of, as you're moving along, get used to the idea of different hours, right? And of running teams and working with teams at different hours, to your point. And as you start to have that more global view, you realize that controlling the whole 24 hours has to be part of your business plan. It's no longer, we're going to do some business over here. It's how do we actually address all of the needs, be they for a client I have here or globally, to get things done. And I'll actually give an example of, there was one time that although I was on the road with some of our staff, we had an issue come up, and I realized there was no way we would be able to do it on time with how our team was set up. So we started going to the various platforms for hiring people and hiring by time zone, right? Because I was like, I need 24 hours a day on this, and it's not going to be better if I have my team working 18 hours a day. They're going to burn out, they're going to be miserable, and the quality of the product won't be there. I'll have my team focus on the part that they're experts and they can deliver well, and we'll start doing it around. And that goes beyond development too. So when that issue happened was really kind of like the point for me where I crossed the line saying, this isn't just about finding a quality person or reducing a cost for a specific project. Because I think when you focus on the cost side, you always know that if that lowers your quality at all, you're risking your whole business. Mm-hmm. So cost can't be my first consideration. Having said that, obviously hiring a developer in San Francisco, it can be wildly different than hiring one in Argentina. But the quality has to match, right? If it doesn't, it's irrelevant. So as we've gone on in everything we do with ZuCasa, we've done a lot of business in India. We actually have clients in Toronto. We're, kind of expanding out. I have team members in Europe. We've done some team members in India and in the Philippines. We now have a group Rootstrap that we work with down in South America. And we can kind of look at everything across the board and say, whenever we have any sort of support or anything we need to do, we just lean into a different time zone to solve the problem instead of trying to adjust everyone else's schedule around us.
What either mindset shift did you need to go through, and or mindset shift or kind of information you needed to provide to stakeholders in your business? Those could be customers, prospects, investors, your own employees, to ensure that everybody got on the same page. And let's start with that, the why, and developing that why. And then let's get tactical into what are some best practices and pitfalls and challenges that you learned. So let's start with how you overcame the legacy bias that this, or maybe you didn't. Maybe, as you mentioned, you lived in London.
Well, no, you're correct. I think the bias that comes up actually is all the information that comes at you whenever you're doing things. People are going to tell you these developers aren't any good, or these people treat, their customers differently or their sales differently, or that. And we all grow up and are in a culture. So it's not to say that a culture doesn't influence people. But that goes back to how you approach interviewing, defining KPIs, and doing all that. So you kind of have to look at it as well, and then account for what cultural differences there might be. So some people that you'll encounter maybe are more brash than we would, I'm in Los Angeles. Everybody's very, like this, so you've got to be ready for that. Or, talk about Canada. I mean, everyone's nice. So you have to remember that people may be nice when they aren't happy, so you have all of these cultural things to have in mind. But at the end of the day, the job is to deliver a product and then support that product. So all of the things that come in around that kind of factor first from the leadership and from the things you put forward, and having empathy and understanding and kind of conforming to the needs as long as the people are conforming to yours. So I think that's the internal notion of that. And externally, I think that companies care less about where things are built as long as you're the one saying that it's our name on it, it's our legacy on it. So I think you deal with those things a little bit less.
What have been some of the more tactile learnings or best practices you've acquired that, as you talk to your fellow founder friends or you've seen in other businesses, they've become your superpower? They've become something that you figured out that you believe the listeners would benefit from?
Well, I think I touched on earlier that when you're looking at a dispersed team or outsourcing or whatever you want to call it as you work with people, is to not lead with the financial aspect of it. The people you're working with still have to be quality, and then wrapping in that culture side. I find it really surprising. Surprising to the extent that it's not effective, and it should obviously not be effective, to go into a different region of the world with a different culture and expect them to answer to the culture that I'm in. So I think that if anything, it's like, don't hire team members across any poor part of your business without really getting a picture of the culture. And I think that you should even talk to them about it, talk to the people, and try to understand so that you're on the same page going in. Because if you're not, you're going to hit roadblocks. You're going to have a lot of misunderstandings.
Now, on the flip side, if you had a time machine, you would do it all over again. You
Hmm.
might say, I wish I'd have done it earlier, but
Sure.
what lessons learned? I'm part of this group called the Collective 54. It's for founders of professional services companies.
Hmm.
And the guy who runs it, he calls it paying the dumb tax. And
Hmm.
so what would be some of those dumb taxes that you paid that you won't repeat and that you would advise others to not repeat?
It's actually, I'll put forward that it's definitely something that I wish I'd learned earlier, and it's the only thing I've ever read in a book on sales that has come to be kind of like my mantra in all of these things, and it's ironic to what we're talking about. It's don't speak Russian to a Spaniard, right? And I think it goes back to what I was saying about culture. It's like those are lessons learned. That isn't me walking into the room and saying like I automatically understood that. It's really working through knowing that when someone says yes, it doesn't necessarily mean the same yes as me, even if they're speaking the same language. And if you kind of extrapolate that out, that can lead to a lot of issues. So it's that.
Yeah, that's a great point. Is setting expectations of not being afraid to fail, admit failure. So we have four core pillars in our business. Like think of them as first principles, and one of them is radical transparency. Uh,
Mm,
we are not afraid to tell each other exactly what a customer said in feedback, good, bad, or ugly. But in the Asian culture, there is a tendency to say yes to everything. Like customer
that's
gives you a
right.
task, sure, yes, I can do it. When can it be done? It'll be done right away. But not recognizing the ramifications here in North America. We would rather you say, no, you can't do it, and or it will be done by Friday, even though you think in your heart of hearts, I think the customer would love to have it done today, but that's not a reality.
Hmm.
They would rather be told it will be done by Friday and it arrives Thursday night.
Hmm.
Then, and that's an obvious statement to a North American, but it's not around the world. And saying yes is something that we are constantly training into the team. Reframe questions, ask what and how based questions. Don't be afraid to say no. We
Yes,
just
and
can't do it.
really get to what's important for the client. That can be very challenging too. I see that a lot where there are conversations that happen and either you listen to them later, look at the transcripts, or have a conversation with some team members and then go into another meeting with the client and you're like, that isn't what the client's asking for. And that goes back to a cultural side as well, right? We have a propensity as people to try to make people happy, right? To try to be seen as intelligent and all of these things. And as you point out, I think that uh, transparency is also a vital part of our team as well, especially honestly at the founder and leadership level, because that's one of the hardest places um, to be left with ego. If you're working from a place of ego or defensiveness or anything like that, you are going to create very large problems for yourself down the road.
How many offshore or outsourced or near shore, whatever you want to call it, how many teammates do you have right now so people can get a sense of the scope of your experience with that? And then how do people get a hold of you if they want to talk about your primary business or around your experience with offshoring?
Sure. I think we are the definition of accordion. I mean, I think right now we're maybe at about 30 people. Sometimes it can be up to 70, 80. I mean, it depends on the project. We're just about to start a large project that will then push that again. There's kind of a focus for us on delivery as opposed to just going crazy at any given moment. But across my career, I've had manufacturing in multiple places overseas. I've had hundreds of people running in different directions. So it kind of depends on what you're trying to achieve. In terms of reaching me, I am on LinkedIn, Gregory Butler, and then flat out just email me directly, gregory.butler@ZuCasa, ZU.CASA.
This was fantastic. Thank you so much for being on Outsource to Profits.
Thanks, Jamie. I really appreciate it.
Thank you.